Welcome in, welcome back, everybody. I hope wherever you're at, you're staying warm. It's not an easy thing to do. It's cold even down in Florida. It's just cold. So I hope you are all warm and toasty. We are in a little lull here, okay? We're out of the season, but we're not into spring ball. We have a little down period, and that's when the wheels really start spinning, and that's a dangerous thing, okay? So Mike and I were texting back and forth last night. Something got to him with these quarterbacks at Notre Dame. And before you know it, we're going back and forth. And John, what about this? What about that? Mike did a short today that posted on Patreon promising that we're going to follow up on that and dig into this quarterback dynamic a little more. Mike, it got you going, and I want to allow you to really air this out and clear the air on where your mind and your heart is.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity, and this is fun, right? So, dude, I get, I stay up late, you stay up late, and like I like to watch film, like I'll just pull up stuff, and you just kind of like, for no particular reason, I'm not looking for anything, but then stuff starts to kind of show itself. And you can never get tired of talking about the quarterback position. But I reached out to you because it's like, well, why is the push for Angeli like, well, we don't need Riley Leonard. There's that camp. We don't need Riley Leonard. We got Steve Angeli waiting in the wings. He looks great. You saw what he did in the bowl game, etc. But I've always said on the YouTube show, I'm like, if you're pulling for Angeli, you ought to be pulling for Minchie, So it's like, that's why I was like, I think that was my question to you. The opening line of questioning was like, why do fans want Angeli so bad? And like, why do they forget about Minchie? And your response was, and then what we kind of said, it's kind of the next man up. That's just where people's brains go to the second string. I don't think they take do that extra mental homework to like, what about the third string kid? He was he was a much higher ranked recruit than Angeli was, and then you go back to the film and I saw something from the bowl game, what the media is allowed to like see, when they let the media into practice, and it was Carr throwing a ball and it was Minchie throwing a ball. And I'm telling you, when that ball came off, and they both got nice releases, nice, clean, crisp, quick releases. But when that ball came off of Carr's hand, it's off his ear. And then Kenny was like way up here. And I was like, that got my mind turning. I'm like, that's a really low release point, John. That could lead to tip passes, whatever. And you get to see CJ in high school and he's moving around. He can always find a window. As we talked about when we broke down that recruiting class, like, one of the things that I'm looking at is that transferable to college. And I'm just saying, I like Kenny Minchie better than CJ Carr. I like Kenny Minchie better than Angeli in terms of just natural talent, natural gifts.
Whoa. Time out. And if you said that about Angeli, I think a lot of people could see that. You're going to surprise a lot of people when you say you like what you see with those tools over Carr. I do not think the majority of fans see it that way at all.
So that's what I want to talk about. Why?
Yeah, that's like one that I have not seen out there really at all. So you might be ahead of the quarterback curve like you were last year. That's a new one. The Angeli one that's not as debatable, but you're going to take people by surprise with that Carr comment.
I liked Carr's film and I was excited. And let's just freaking talk about it. And if I run on, I apologize in advance, brother. But like, I liked Carr's film, like, because he's been committed forever, right? I liked his film the first time I saw it, and then you kind of put it away. It's like a good album. Like I buy all the Pearl Jam albums back when you'd buy a CD. It's like I listened to it the first time. I'm not really crazy about it, but I give it 9 months, listen to it again. It's like, okay, I like it more the second time. This was the opposite effect. I like Carr's film less, and then I would jump back into Minchie's film. I like Minchie. Riley Leonard's your starter, but I'm telling you, in terms of gifts, talent, a whip for an arm, the release point, the athletic, the body, etc. And I'm just telling you, I prefer Minchie over Carr, and I prefer Minchie over Angeli. And then it's like the thing that kind of stuck in my craw, John, is like, why are people? Well, I hope Minchie doesn't transfer. It's like nobody talks about Angeli transferring anymore, anyways. It's just assumed he's the number 2 guy, and of course, nobody ever talks about Carr transferring. It's like, well, there. As far as recruits, I mean, they were kind of neck and neck. I mean, Kenny was a top 5, top 8 quarterback out of high school, and people look at him or just have completely forgot about him. And that's why I just challenge people to go watch the film.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
I want to let you keep going if you have more, because I have a few things that popped into my head to throw back at you and just see what you're thinking. Okay.
Dig.
Here's number 1. Number 1 is you got to realize regular run-of-the-mill fans, just a regular diehard, I love Notre Dame. Even if they pulled film, most of us are not going to know what we need to look at to really differentiate the differences between these guys in high school or at a camp, what we're looking at. Even if you tried to delve into it, I don't think most fans are going to, on a technical level, identify these differing characteristics or whatever. So even if you looked at the film or whatever, I'm not sure most regular fans are going to be able to identify all these little nuanced differences somebody like you would be. So that's one thing. The other part is people are figuring, I think, I don't know, we're throwing out theories. People are probably thinking, Mike, Carr's this recruit everybody wanted forever, and you stick it to Michigan, it's Lloyd's grandkid and whatever. That is already an exciting feather in the cap, want to see it. Then I think people think, well, Angeli's the number 2 for a reason. He must be better than Kenny, so we're getting behind him as the number 2 guy. Do the fans just accept that the staff must have already done these evaluations and Steve is just better than Kenny, and that's why he's the second guy this year and not Kenny? And so it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't see him. He doesn't come in the games. He's not the backup. And there must be a reason why Angeli's in that 2 spot. Maybe the fans think that evaluation has already taken place.
And to a degree it has, but he's been in the building longer, so he's going to have a better grasp. And
that's the next thing I was going to say is how much of this has to do with he's been around longer. And that's the way this usually goes when you're getting first immersed into this is usually the guy that's been around longer is going to get that call. And if a guy's a young guy, you want to save that year of eligibility. Yeah. So I just think that the fans are he's a number 2 guy. The coaches must have made him number 2 because he's better than Kenny right now. And that's what you focus on.
Yeah, but that's it. But I mean, I'm saying there's no other
But I got to see it. But I got to see it. I have not seen enough football from Kenny to really be able to compare what I like with Angeli and Kenny.
Well,
I haven't seen it.
Well,
that's the hard part.
People were clamoring for Angeli because they saw him throw a dozen passes in mop-up duty.
Yeah,
he looked great.
Yeah.
So it's I'm just trying to pick it apart. Then you go, he's been in the building longer. He understands the offense more. He has more of the coach's trust. When you had Coach Reese, Angeli was under Coach Reese, and then he was under Coach Parker, and Parker basically ran Reese's plays. So now the question becomes, and hell yeah, I'm trying to get in front of this. But I believe it. I mean, again, Kenny Minchie is more physically talented than Steve Angeli. There is no real conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe Steve's a little bit taller. I talked about it on the YouTube show. Kenny's really cleaned up his body. He's there's less baby fat. And that's okay, well, maybe he's just, continuing to physically mature. Or is he starting to take this off-season, everything that encompasses football, is he starting to take that more seriously? His diet, training, work ethic, all this other stuff. Is he getting more dialed in? Because when Coach Denbrock comes in, conceivably, it's a brand new scheme, bro. So that edge that Angeli had in terms of the knowledge of the playbook
kind of leveled out.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Okay. All right. So, man, I struggle with this because it's just, I don't feel like the fans feel like they've seen enough of Minchie to really make an opinion the way you are. Though the like asking that question, I think the fans just default to, this is the order for now. It must be that way for a reason. And that's the way it is. But my question is, this all needs to come to a head in the spring, does it not? Is this not a big moment for that quarterback room when we get into spring ball and we get Denbrock in there and it's kind of a clean slate, and then we see what this is? That not the time where this kind of starts to re-sort itself out? Are we starting at a level footing, or is it just like Angeli number 2? You are gifted by Christ number 2. Or can Kenny go in there and that all changes, and then maybe Angeli's the one who's going, I don't know if I'm going to be here.
Hey.
It's a lot of moving parts.
It's a lot of moving parts that, again, the conversation is like, why don't people think beyond just the second string? It's like, to your point, they're not watching film, the average lay person. I don't claim to be a quarterback whisperer or anything like that. It's the only position I don't train kids to, as far as, training. I won't mess with quarterbacks. But the spring in general, John, is absolutely a time where it's like, if you're the second string linebacker, you're like, dude, or you're the third string, you're like, I got to push up.
Yeah.
Spring is when you win your job. It is, you assert yourself in off-season conditioning, you kind of take on a leadership role, alpha type role, and then spring's when you put it on that work or whatever on display to try and move up. So in general, speaking in general terms, yes, that's the case. I'm just telling you, Denbrock is king shit as far as the quarterback order of things. He's going to know what he wants. So what Brian Kelly wanted in recruiting Angeli, the RKG, right, kind of guy,
yeah,
is probably going to be vastly different than what Mike Denbrock wants and is accustomed to having a mobile passer and a Jalen Daniels. But when you get into Jaden Daniels, when you start reading comments, because I tweeted something, like hashtag why not Kenny. I love it. People will be like, well, Angeli has a similar skill set to Riley Leonard, like the comments. And it's like, no, he doesn't. They're not. I mean, they're two completely different animals, but yet people will just throw stuff out there. So that's always fascinating to me.
Man, I just think I really do. I'm really putting myself in my morning show and the chat and thinking of how this conversation, when it comes up, I really think it's one of those things where they haven't seen Kenny and they're just going with the stack it is, figuring the staff's evaluated it, and this is what they see. Who are we to question that at this time? And also the Carr thing is another part of it, because it's skipping it and it isn't just Angeli and whatever we have with Riley Leonard. Carr's that next big shiny object, the shiny car, so to speak. That's the next big shiny object. And I do feel like somebody's getting left out kind of in the middle there. Do you think the staff should have navigated this any differently this year? Because the kid was young. I mean, this is what it's like your first year, right? Do you think they should have navigated this differently?
No. No. I think, and through some of the people that I've talked to, friends of the program, I really got the sense that, Freeman's in year 2, the Ludwig thing, that whole kerfuffle, he kind of has to push Parker into that role. You bring in Sam Hartman and it's like, dude, let's just like we're running. There's a slow leak in the tire, and it's like we got 2 hours left of this road trip. Like, let's just try to get home. I think that's a lot of what last season was. It was like we're kind of out over our skis. You and I talked about this. Hartman was supposed to fix a lot of like the ills, like the latent issues with Parker not knowing what the fuck he's doing. The young receiver room. Hartman was supposed to be a big old good-looking Band-Aid that we can stick on that. Yeah. So they weren't going to rock the boat or reevaluate. Dude, they were just trying to grin and bear it to get through 2023. So, but then when you talk about, that's the part that I'm just challenging people just to consider is it's like Riley Leonard's the guy. Steve deserves to play because he's Steve. Fans kind of like the guy. He's waited his turn. He's kept his mouth shut. They
might like Kenny more, though. They don't know it yet. You might
That's my point.
Well, you might like Steve, but love Kenny. I don't know.
And then they make that huge leap to Carr. And they're like, oh, CJ Carr, man, he's amazing. He's amazing. It's like, CJ Carr ain't Deuce Knight. CJ Carr is not going to be a first pick in the draft. Physically, he's small. He's narrow. Arm strength, like he's accurate and all that other stuff. But people just completely forget about Kenny. And when they think about Kenny, it's like, well, I hope we don't lose him in the portal. It's like, no, you might lose Steve in the portal. You might lose CJ Carr in the portal. I'm just saying it's all up for grabs. And
is Denbrock's a big wild card in this too, because wherever you thought you stood in that pecking order before,
oh hell yeah,
you get a new guy in there, and it's like, shit, I got to reprove everything to this guy now to reclaim whatever spot. If I'm Kenny, I might be excited about that, being like, here's my chance for the level footing where I can show what I got. Man.
Can I just add something else?
Yeah, sure.
And Riley Leonard, you know what he's making. He's making a little over $1 million to come play here, right? And then it's like, I know what Sam Hartman made last year, less than I thought, or less than I assumed. Shame on me. So he got like $250K to come here up front from the collective. Like, that's your bag of cash scenario that people like to, joke about. So it's like, I'm going to assume, no speculation, this is just assumption. I haven't heard anything, but I'm going to assume Steve probably got a little bit of money to stick around. Riley's going to play because of the dollar amount, and he's probably, the best overall. Still room to grow there. Big challenge for Coach Gino. But I don't think that Steve was given an amount. If Sam Hartman got $250 up front, would you give Steve to stick around? $50? So it's not like they're over invested in terms of Steve, where they can't actually create a competition for number two. Does that make sense, John?
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you gave Sam Hartman $250, you ain't giving Steve Angeli $250 to stick around. He might have got $25,000 to get him to spring to make those coaches feel a little bit better about the whole room.
This may be one of those situations where the initial start of our conversation last night about this, you just genuinely asking, why do you think it's like this? The more I've thought about it for a day, I think the most obvious answer is probably the right one, which is Kenny Minchie didn't have all the hype as Carr and Dante Moore and all those guys. And then you haven't seen them. And so you just kind of go with the flow of what is, because you don't even know what else is out there yet, because we haven't seen enough of Kenny. I just think and then Steve, here's the other part. I think people just like the peanut butter and jelly thing, and he seems so Notre Dame-y too. And I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment. Steve Angeli is the most Notre Dame-iest type guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you got the peanut butter and jelly time, and it was like a novelty to see him play. And he's a good kid. And then you saw a couple flashes. It's just, I'd like to see Kenny have all those opportunities, and then we'll see where we're at. But when all you see is one, and it was pretty decent, you don't start digging further. I think it's that easy. They saw something, they liked it. So why am I going to keep digging? If Steve was the number 2 and he couldn't complete a pass, this would all be different, Mike. That's the other thing. He did look decent in his opportunities. If he struggled at all, people would be calling for Kenny. But since they liked that one throw across his body against Pitt, he's winning the Heisman.
It is.
It's complicated, Mike.
Everything we're talking about, I think, is accurate. And fans are human beings, right? So like they like the feel good story. Steve stuck around. He's very Notre Dame. He's a great guy. But that's like, it's not like Kenny Minchie's a shithead. He's a great kid too. But it's interesting, like, because people have been in love with CJ Carr because his recruitment was a year and a half plus.
Yep.
Kenny Minchie, John, we had Dante Moore locked up under a silent commitment for forever.
Oh, yeah.
The bottom falls out of that thing, and then
silent. They go. It's still silent. God. Dude, do you know how many fucking people told me, don't worry about it, John. He's a silent. He's just going to Oregon to see the ducks fly around. Don't worry about it, John. Yeah. 20 times all my people that I go to for this shit said, relax, you're worrying for nothing. Look how that ended up.
Well, it's another thing about it's like when you talk about the quarterback position and how much gosh dang money is out there, like Dante Moore is already a pro. He's already working the system. You go be a top 5 pick or whatever, you get whatever it is, 40 mil guaranteed. Oh, I accidentally broke my pinky finger on my non-throwing hand. I'm going to sit out the rest of the year. That literally gets me 1 year closer to another deal. And even if I suck when I do get a chance to play, the next team's going to sign me for 20 mil guaranteed or whatever because I was a top 5 pick. And I can get, like, name a quarterback like the freaking guy like Blaine Gabbert was like a top 10 pick for the Jags like 12 years ago. Dude, still in the NFL. Why? Because he was a first-round pick quarterback. So like these college kids, that DJ Uiagalelei, great job. DJ Uiagalelei, third team, third check. That guy's made, I don't know, a couple, 2, 3, 4 million. He's 21 years old yet? Like, good on you.
Yeah.
But Minchie, real quick, Minchie came in at the 11th hour, so Notre Dame fans didn't even know who the hell the guy was. You know who else came in the 11th hour, John? Audric Estime. Audric Estime came in late.
You know what, though? Yeah, but quarterbacks are a different animal, especially around Notre Dame, too. I think you might be onto something. Did maybe all this got off to a weird start with Kenny, because he wasn't a guy everybody was drooling over for a year recruiting and everybody's drooling over. That's the guy, blah, blah, blah.
He slipped right in.
Maybe he didn't get the benefit of all the podcasters and all the Notre Dame people pumping up what could be for a year if we get this guy. And then it's got John mowing the lawn 2 summers early, all excited. Oh, we're off to the races now while I'm mowing, listening to them talk about this guy at some camp throwing against fucking air. And I'm all excited. Maybe him coming in at that last minute and remember where he was committed to before we grabbed him. Not exactly the highest profile situation where the best players go. I'm wondering if all that put in the back of Notre Dame fans' mind, this guy's a little less than. Otherwise, why would he be committed to Pitt? And why are we getting him at the last minute as a bailout? I wonder if psychologically that's in the back of people's minds somewhere, even though it really isn't rooted in any reality that bears anything.
I'll say this. And anymore, John, especially on Patreon, I don't give a shit, dude. Like the other day, I forget what we were talking about. Oh, in terms of like linebackers or recruits or like, I don't care what any other talking head on your computer screen or your cell phone says. This is what I think. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I think, and we go like Kenny Minchie is Dante Moore. Maybe he's an inch or two shorter, but they are the like in terms of you put their film on, they like, I'm telling you, all the arm angles, above their plus athletes. kind of thickly built dudes. They look very similar, but Dante Moore is extra. He's extra. He's been playing the game, his dad and them. And Kenny Minchie's from Pennsylvania. He's very mild-mannered. He's
down to work. Yeah.
Pitt's been recruiting him since he's a true freshman or even earlier. He's been going to camp at Pitt, and he's like a good dude. And he's like, hell yeah, I'm going to go play for my home school. And then, 11th hour, Notre Dame comes in and then reels him back in. So I'm just telling you, the play style of a Dante Moore and a Kenny Minchie is very similar. The personality, totally different.
Next, man, I'm glad you brought that up. The next thing on my list to bring up was, how do different personalities help shape this dynamic? Meaning like maybe a quieter guy, more go with the flow, do my own thing, versus a more flashy, gregarious, outgoing guy that gets all the attention. I want to say that shouldn't matter to the staff trying to evaluate who's the best guy. But do you think the personality thing is a part of this? And again, I don't know that I don't love Kenny's personality, but I know I haven't been around it enough or seen enough of him to form an opinion. Maybe we just haven't gotten there yet because he was too young.
Well, gosh, this is a good episode, John. Well done so far.
It's complicated though, Mike. These things they're all interconnected. These are complicated dynamics, man.
So let's get into this personality thing. I saw this was during camp, during the prior fall camp. I don't know why they call it fall camp. It's like technically still summer. It's hot as shit out. It's not the fall. But they had Jaden Greathouse, who's a very confident player, very polished, came from a big-time program in Texas, whatever. And they were interviewing Greathouse, and he was talking about the different quarterbacks. And I'll never forget it because he's a true freshman saying this about, redshirt sophomore kid in the class above him. Jaden Greathouse called Kenny a sweet kid. And I'm sensitive. And I'm like, dude, why you call, like, you're younger than me. You're calling me a sweet kid. It was almost like Jaden was like looking down, like, oh, he's a sweet kid. You get where I'm going with that? So I just think that Kenny's more softer spoken or whatever, but that doesn't mean that he's not an assassin. It doesn't mean that he has great leadership. He's just not extra.
Yeah.
Steve, you saw, like, this is the stuff that I pick up on. Steve's growing a little beard. It's not a great beard, but he's growing a beard. Like, that's him. Sam's out of the building.
He becomes you got to pass that along.
But I'm just saying it. No, it's just like, like kids will leave for college. Like, I went to college and I like grew my hair out or whatever, so it's like Steve, it's like a little bit of like subtle posturing. Like, okay, I'm the adult in the room. I'm the oldest player. I'm growing a beard.
Yeah.
But how are coaches going to look at things? We can talk about it. How are fans going to look at things? And I can tell you this, hand of God, fans are going to fall in love with CJ Carr as a kid. Oh my God. You thought Sam Hartman was like a Notre Dame guy. And, that's why, dude, I've seen CJ Carr, and he grew up around the game and he knows what's up. But Notre Dame fans are going to melt over CJ Carr, the kid.
We better just hope the production follows.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And the reality of this is these guys, the staff, Mike, they got to get this right. Whatever this ultimate lineup, this ultimate 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever this stack is going to end up being in the long term, they got to get it right. Because what you can't do is hitch your wagon to the wrong guy on the field, and then the right guy on the bench leaves your field and goes somewhere else. Now you're killing your momentum double time. If you hitch the wagon to the wrong guy and the right guy gets pissed and leaves, where does that leave you then? That's a dark alley of this. If this all goes sideways, that's where you end up. And that needs to be talked about as well. Now, I also want to say these are first world problems. to have multiple quarterbacks that you feel good about around here for once, that's a good problem to have.
It's like as you're going through, dude, it's like a reality TV show. Somebody's getting voted off the island, and it's like we want to make sure it's the right. They're all going to be great kids, But I'm just telling you, I think Denbrock coming in, and I hadn't even thought about Denbrock being kind of like the equalizer until literally we went live here.
Yeah.
But so throw that depth chart out. This will be Angeli's third offensive coordinator. I'm just telling you, don't be surprised if old Kenny Minchie is your number 2. And if Steve Angeli happens to hit the portal, John, don't call me. Don't call me going, Mike, is this unraveling? This unraveling? It's like, no, if Angeli hits the portal, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, but I'm not going to let you go. Man, decisions. It's like, I just, if you're Denbrock, do you come in there and when you're getting ramped up to do spring ball, do you have a meeting with all these guys? And the first thing you say is, here's the deal, guys. I'm new and I'm coming in here fresh. And that means that we're all getting a fresh start. Wherever you think you were, you ain't. And we're all starting from zero. Earn your spot. Like, I'm new here. Like, this is a clean. Do you have that discussion with the group, or is that just known that we're kind of starting over here? Like, how do you navigate that? I want to light a spark here. I want to let everybody know, if you're buried on the depth chart last year, maybe you won't be this year. Like, it's a clean slate that could be good for everybody. How do you navigate it?
Yeah, that conversation is going to be had. And even if there is a true competition where Riley isn't the assumed number 1, eventually, if you look at the way it was handled last year between Buckner and Hartman, even if Buckner's outplaying Sam because he maybe knows the playbook better early on, eventually Sam is going to, or Riley in this instance, is going to overtake whomever.
Yeah.
But yes, those conversations are had in every single position room, whether it's true or not. There's degrees of truth there.
Yep. I
have been begging Freeman. Somebody asked the question, John, sneak into the freaking press conference. What's the gosh darn criteria here, Freeman? Denbrock, Gino. So we're critiquing our quarterbacks. We're assessing their play based off of fucking what? What are the top 5 things I need to see from my guys to move up or down the depth chart? If you don't establish that, like, what are the rules to the game?
Yeah.
What are the rules to the competition, John?
Yeah. And then,
John, you have a sibling, you have a brother, right? Younger brother?
Yeah.
So when you guys were growing up and you'd be playing a game in the backyard or whatever, you as the smarter older brother, you're older. Do you ever change? He starts winning, you change the rules?
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
So that's what I'm saying. How frustrating is that then if you're playing the game? It's like, no, I thought these were the rules.
And also, how frustrating was it when one day I woke up and my younger brother was way bigger and stronger than me? Then all the rules changed because I didn't like the games I was playing once he got bigger than me.
So, but I just say that to make it relatable. Those rules, whatever those criteria, even if it's not shared publicly, what we're, assessing, how we're assessing the play, it's got to be known in that room how we're keeping score.
Yeah. And then ultimately, a lot of this is good old fashioned. It's going to come down to Kenny turning some heads. And when he does get opportunities in these spring sessions or whatever, a blue and gold game, whatever, for him to really kind of surprise some people. I mean, there is going to be some pressure on him for that. This is a weird dynamic, man. I get it. The Sam thing, and then Angeli is 2. And then everybody's eyes just go right to Carr and right to Deuce. And that's what's happening. He's the one you don't see. It's like Rudy's brother. On Saturday, I see all them guys running out there, but it ain't your small, slow ass, right? Like, I think it could be that simple. He's the one you don't see. And there's all this smoke around Carr, all this smoke around Deuce. You've seen some of Angela. You've seen Riley Leonard. And I just think Kenny has fallen through the cracks.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, no fanfare, no recruiting fanfare. He was committed to Pitt.
Yep.
So literally he came in at the 11th hour like the last month and a half of recruiting season.
Yeah.
That's when, and good on Coach Reese, good on Coach Freeman to be able to get him in the fold.
Oh, you would have been in a bad spot without getting that too, because they went all in on Dante the Silent.
What about like Blake Fisher? Blake Fisher was a 5-star. And people have forever been like, oh, remember, he was a first-round pick. And I saw him play the very first game, and I'm like, slow feet. And I'm like, he's a true freshman. He's out of shape, clearly.
Was that the one? Was that at Florida State? Was that
Correct.
that game when he started? Yeah.
When Kyle Hamilton came across both hashes and made that pick.
Yeah.
That's another one. Kyle Hamilton, smart kid, played like 3 games his senior year and said, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Kyle Hamilton gave people 2 seasons in like a couple games, but he didn't play the last 7 games of his career smartly. But it is like, I know, like he didn't play a lot his last year.
Hey, it worked out great. Look at him now.
Oh, amen. I'm not mad at him. But Blake Fisher, it was like all the focus was always about Blake Fisher until like little old Joe Alt, 3-star Joe Alt showed up. Nobody thought twice about that kid. And it's like Blake Fisher, dude. I mean, I think maybe he's a guard in the NFL, but he's not going to be a first-day pick. But like people were hyper-focused on Blake Fisher because of that recruiting, the 5-star, et cetera. It's a real thing.
Yeah, it really, really interesting. I just think he's the one that's least visible, that you see and hear the least about, and he's fallen through the cracks between what you have in front of you now, dangling in front of you now, and what you have on the other end of the tunnel, which is Carr and Deuce. I literally think he's just fallen in between. And I hope, here's the other part though, Mike, who the hell cares what I think? I want to know what the coaches think about all, like fans and whatever in the media. We don't see everything. We don't know I really hope that there's none of these phenomenon happening with the staff. Like, I hope they have a clearer vision for all this than we do. I hope that. It would give me comfort. Well, they should have more clarity. They're the ones with these guys every day, not me. So they should have more clarity on this.
Well, remember we talked about the Denbrock hire, which you love. On one hand, you got old man Al Golden. On the other side, you got old man Mike Denbrock, which lets Marcus just run down the middle, face of the program, charisma.
Let the man cook. Let him cook.
Yeah, energy, charisma, charm, recruiting, cool factor, market, all that. Marcus Freeman doesn't know a lot about offensive football. He kind of lets you know as much, I saw him on that, the Notre Dame podcast where they're sitting on the couch or whatever. Mm-hmm. He was like, man, I thought I knew a little bit about, quarterback play, but then he said he started watching quarterback film as a now head coach. And he was like, shit, I didn't know anything. So this decision at quarterback, I don't think Freeman's going to have a strong opinion.
He will defer to the offensive experts. And you feel a lot better if it's Denbrock too, by the way, as far as eyeing the talent. And
can I add one other thing?
Gino's been around the block too.
Well, Gino's an interesting dude, man. Gino's an interesting guy. So
he's football-y. He's real football-y, man.
Get this. When I was at Notre Dame, Gino came on a visit. So we hosted him, like my group of guys. So he roomed with a quarterback. Or excuse me, he was teamed up with a quarterback as a host. And there's a funny story. I think I told you what that story was, but they kind of left him at the hotel. But which was like, okay, I don't recall that. But then if you look up like Gino Guidugli's like Wikipedia, that son of a bitch loves football. Yeah. So much so, he was playing like Arena 2. He was playing like Arena 2 football, ostensibly for free, Yeah. So then if I'm Gino and I love ball, right? Like I love this shit. I'm playing for free, I'm playing Arena 2 football. Who does Gino want to coach? Does Gino want to coach a guy with more upside, John, or less upside? What say you?
Yeah. I would err to the side of more upside.
So then I think that Gino is going to really want to sink his teeth into a Kenny.
Yeah.
And then he could say, look what I did, coach.
Now, I'm open to the idea that now that Kenny's not a freshman, I'm open to all these dynamics changing. Isn't it natural for them to kind of rein in those freshmen? You don't want to waste a year of eligibility. You want them to learn. Isn't that kind of the plan for a lot of these guys anyways? Like maybe we just haven't gotten to the part where Kenny will have a chance to show more, to rise up. Maybe we just didn't get there because he was the new guy yet. Like this is not a permanent dynamic. I'm wondering if this changes now that he's got that year.
It should. It should. I'm just telling you, under Parker, it was like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like don't touch anything.
Yeah, it could get worried. We could break this even more.
Well, yeah, like I don't want to lose. Yeah. I don't want to lose Angeli, who's been in this offense for 2 years, and then like I have to throw. Think about it. Like I have to throw Minchie in, who's doesn't really know the offense, hasn't played, hasn't even gotten garbage time snaps. That could get very hairy for Coach Freeman in year 2.
Yeah.
So I think it does need to shake up. And I was reading on like the Notre Dame football subreddit, and people are like, dude, hopefully, maybe Carr can beat out Riley Leonard. And like, I mean, the places, and I understand, but the places Notre Dame fans allow their minds to go, it's bizarro world.
Yeah.
I'm saying Kenny Minchie is more talented than CJ Carr. So it's like CJ Carr ain't like that guy. Like Deuce Knight.
People want him to be that guy, Mike. You're breaking.
But why?
What do you mean why? Because we never have that guy.
But why Carr? Why do they want Carr to be that guy, not Kenny?
What do you mean, why? Because I've been begging for one of those guys my whole life. What do you mean, why?
Well, why Carr and not Kenny? Why do they want Carr to be that guy? Why do they want Angeli to be that guy and not Kenny?
No. It ain't about the name. Somebody has to be the guy. It isn't about the name.
Oh, shit, it ain't about the name.
I don't give a shit if it's Carr. I don't care if it's Minchie. I don't care if it's Brian Van Gorder. I need the guy to be good.
Yeah.
I don't care the name. I have no dog in this fight. Give me a guy that you win because of in the biggest games at quarterback. I don't care who it is. I have no politics in this game to win or lose.
No, you don't.
I don't.
Not
you. You can't ask why, because it's the one thing we haven't had, Mike. We have not had that. The guy that you win because of in the biggest moments.
Well, that's
we have not had that guy.
That's certainly not Angeli. It's certainly not Angeli in terms of that dynamic.
Mike.
People
like saying peanut butter and jelly time. Like, I think it's like literally these little things that you. Some of this is very Notre Dame-y too. We like to get really intimate with these relationships. Like our relationship with some of these guys, I don't even think is normal. I wonder if that's everywhere, but it feels extra with Notre Dame. Like the family thing, we're all in that. We get really attached.
Oh God. Oh God.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's just like, it's so interesting, man, to be a part of it all. Cause it's like, we talked about with Sam Hartman, like good quarterback for us. Like, but dude, just the way that people honestly, grown men fell in love with the guy. And like, sure, unquestionably his looks is a part of the love affair but then it's like, so to that degree, it's like, just even the fact that like Steve was taller than the rest of the group, it's like, he's got to be the guy. But the Angeli thing, the peanut butter Angeli thing, like all these meaningless things factor into how fans feel about a given
image,
kid
and all that. Yeah.
Wow.
I think recruiting has a lot to do with this too. The way that business has exploded and how big it is. I really do think the initial recruiting rankings kind of set the tone for the start of the relationship. And a guy like Kenny that was committed to nut job Narduzzi and all that, I'm telling you, people look at it and go, well, then he can't be that great, or why would he have committed to Pittsburgh? Why wouldn't you be it somewhere else? Like, I think from the start, that was maybe already in people's minds a little bit. How good could he be if he committed to Pitt? It's Pitt. Like, I think there is some of that. It may not be fair, and you may not even want to acknowledge he's from that area, and it makes sense. But I think the difference between that recruitment and all the circus stuff with Carr, that's already tainting people's brains just because of that dynamic alone.
Well, 100%. And it is so gosh darn true, dude, because people be like, CJ Carr's film, like his actual game film, they'll be like, well, his offensive line was pretty leaky. It's like, how the fuck do you know about CJ Carr's like offensive line? Like the way that people like weave in excuses, like you got a scouting report on CJ Carr's like high school offensive line, you know, like they make excuses to like, you know, try to prove out an argument or whatever. So we've spent a ton of time on it, but I'm just sitting there going,
you're going to take some shit for this, Mike. You are going to take some shit for this. You are. Like, you need to realize, like, the Notre Dame fans want to think CJ Carr, he's the one. They remember the moment where he committed and Lloyd was there in the Michigan hat and he was a hot recruit that 2 summers ago, whatever it was. Like, that's the image Notre Dame fans want to have of CJ Carr. You saying, I am not quite sure he's going to be that player or whatever. Nobody wants to hear that. Notre Dame fans don't want to hear it, man. They've been buying into CJ. They don't want to hear it.
I would just sit there and go, if you got the time to listen to us two idiots, you got time. Go find Dante Moore's high school film. Mm-hmm. You know, Dante Moore Huddle, HUDL. Dante Moore film, high school film. Watch Dante Moore's film, the #1 recruit in the country, top quarterback, yada, yada, yada. Then go watch Kenny Minchie's film. Do it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then the only other thought that I have is if CJ Carr were to like transfer out, I'm not mad, dude, because that just gets us closer to Deuce.
Yeah. But yeah, of course you're not mad because you're the guy who already thinks Minchie should be ahead of him anyway. So of course you're not mad, but most of the fans would look at that as like, what did Notre Dame do to turn off this? The image on CJ Carr right now is elite quarterback, going to change Notre Dame's dynamic. That is like, that was the initial seed planted during his recruitment. And I don't think for the bulk of fans that's changed because there's no body of work for which it to change. We don't see a bunch of
Well, he was a highly ranked kid.
Fans want him to be the guy.
He was a top 5-ish quarterback. But on 3, you know, one of the recruiting ranking services, they had him ranked like low, dude.
Yeah, off the chart low, like out of the graphic low.
Yeah, not even like a top 250 player or something off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but it's like that means something. But Jared Clark, who we had on, former Division I quarterback, you know, high-level high school coach, he told me he was small. He said he was small. He said he was short, and he said he was small. So it's like, you know, you got a 6'1", 195-pound quarterback out there. That ain't fucking elite, John.
Yeah, man, this is going to be really interesting. And the wild card is Denbrock just getting inserted in the middle of all this with all of his knowledge and him knowing what he's looking for. That is the wild card that gets inserted right into this mix. This is going to be a really interesting spring. So I think I am really excited to get into that window and be able to see more of what these guys could do and see how this levels out. And then see, does anybody leave? Does anybody take off, pull a Buckner right after the blue and gold game? It's going to be a really interesting period of time for Notre Dame, but they got to get this right. You can't screw this up.
I agree.
Oh, man, this is stressing me out.
That's what I'm here for, John.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.